distracted by all the things going around the world that we can miss what's really happening in God's big church. And really, quite honestly, like, I could care less what the government's going to do or doing. I care as a citizen. But when it comes to the kingdom of God, let them do what they're going to do. And we're going to reveal a structure, and this is what I saw in the first, second, third century church in reading this, is that Jesus didn't, and the disciples didn't stand up against the government and bring down the most corrupt empire ever, Rome, that was persecuting them and killing them and all the rest of it. They didn't say this is wrong, even though they're being marched into lions' dens. They didn't stand up against the government at all. You know what they did? Is they rendered the government irrelevant by becoming the hope. So much so that one of their Caesars in 357 AD, and I read this in this book, this quote from there, Julian the Apostate, who Julian was the nephew of Constantine, which many people know who Constantine is, but Julian was his nephew. Constantine claimed to be a Christian and killed all of Julian's. As a church, we give Constantine way too much credit, by the way. He did some good things, like Christian, all the rest of it, but at the same time, he wasn't the one that kind of pushed Christianity forward. That happened emperors later. But Constantine claimed to be a Christian, and he killed all of Julian the Apostate's family. So Julian, except for him, because he was threatened by their leadership, Julian grew up despising Christianity because Constantine, in the name of God, had killed his entire family when he was just a young boy. So he was marred and scarred and all the rest of it. So he grew up and he became emperor in 356, 357. He only reigned for 18 months. But and when he became emperor, his main mandate is he was going to obliterate Christianity because he had such a disdain for them. And so he might have succeeded had he or tried to succeed, had he been emperor longer. He died young and kind of in a surprising way. And who knows what all that went on around that. But this is what he said, and he couldn't figure out Christians. This is what he said. He basically said that Christians were so good. He said there's not poor among them. There's not a needy Jew or Gentile among them. He says they are the biggest. They support all these things. People are flocking to them. They have more influence than us. And he basically went through all this, and he says they're making us Rome, the greatest empire on the planet. They're making us look bad talking about Christians. So as much as he hated them, there's this mad respect in going, they're doing our job. And I look at this, I was like, isn't that amazing? And it wasn't that far after that the Roman Empire collapsed. Not because it was so much conquered as much as it had no control anymore, because all of the influence shifted. How we take our nation back? We just be the church. Come on, we be the church. We render them irrelevant. People are looking for hope, and they're looking for leadership. And we can do that. We're called to do both of those in the church. So come on. This is what we're activating. This is a movement. And this is not just a movement of planting parallel churches. Reason why we call this and name this Parallels, we want to come alongside existing churches and awaken them to the same vision, to the same thing, and saying, come on, you do it too. You do it. You take your city, and if we can, I can imagine my city cares and all these kind of hope centers all across this country, in every single town, hamlet, city across this country. And all of a sudden, where do you go to get help? Where do you go get hope? You go to My City Care. You go to the church. And if you can go to the church and get help, guess what? Guess who has the influence? So let's go. In that book, he says this, Dr. Gerald Sitzer says this, the role of Christianity in the West has changed. It is no longer culturally dominant. A political strategy to hold on to or to regain power will only set the church back even further. Let me pause there for a second as to what he's talking about. He says there's a difference between Christendom and Christianity. And oftentimes what we fight for in the church and what we're panicking about, what's going on with, forced vaccines. I'm not going to beat around the bush today. Is that okay? You guys are the core. We're going to go. What we talk about with forced vaccines and all this, and we all panic over that and going, okay, me too, as a citizen, I'm like, wait a second, way overreach, government. Thank you very much. Like, way. Like, this is not your job, all that kind of stuff. All these things, and we panic about all that. But listen, if we fight and saying, no, we're a Christian country, we have rights, we can do that as citizens, but as Christians, we answer to a kingdom higher than, right? And this is the key. And so we got to be careful that we don't fight for Christendom, which is the dominion of Christianity, as we're fighting for a Christian nation. We're not fighting for a Christian nation and Judeo-Christian, honestly, we haven't been a Christian nation for a long time, right? So we fight for Christendom and the dominion of the church and all the rights. That's not our job. Our job is not to gain power and to be over top. Our job is to come underneath and to support and serve. Everybody expected Jesus to be the Messiah and to dethrone Rome and to establish himself on top. And Jesus came and established himself on the bottom and became a servant of all, is what it said, and died on the cross and did all of this and destroyed Rome anyway. We getting this? So he says the role of Christianity in the West has changed. It's no longer culturally dominant. A political strategy to hold on to or regain power will only set the church back even further. What he's talking about, if we fight for Christendom, that's going to take us from our purpose and set us back even further. When I say change, I'm talking change. Okay, it would be like a boxer swinging aimlessly at an opponent to prolong time in the ring, even though the match is nearly over and clearly lost. We're not going to win the Christendom fight, because that's the wrong ring to be fighting in. But then he says this: our cultural memory of the past might actually be keeping us from seeing the changes happening before our very eyes. And what did he say? And from adapting creatively to them. If we get stuck in the past and what's always been done, the way it's always been done, even our expectations of church, how it's always been done, we might actually get stuck from adapting creatively to them. And then he says, and I read this last night, the best hours of Western Christianity might be ahead of us, not behind us, assuming we dare to think differently about what it means to be Christian and to live as Christians in a culture that is changing. We're going to dare to think different and be different. So just for those of you who weren't able to be in the room, and thank you so much for your sacrifice and all the rest of it. I did in my message, if you didn't hear this, I'm just going to recap a little bit last night about some of the history study that I did and just around Henry Ford a little bit and elaborate a little bit more on that this morning. But Henry Ford, he invented, it's kind of funny, he invented the automobile, and the release of the automobile, the first one, the Model T, which is the first one released to the public. He invented ones before that, but this was the first one he released to the public, actually launched on October 1st, which I read that and I was like, that's an odd coincidence. 365 days in a year and happens to be that one. I was like, I was like, okay, maybe this is. And I just looked at it, I was like, maybe this is the right story to talk about. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But listen, he didn't just invent a car and going, okay, I mean, think about all the things that he had to invent on top of that to make that thing work. Because he invents a car, and then all of his critics kept on saying, well, that's not going to work, and it's, horse and buggies are better, and because horse and buggies, you don't break down. That was their excuse. Horse and buggies don't run out of gas. That's kind of an excuse. That's not really true. All the reasoning that they gave. all the rest of it. So basically what he had to do is, it was just fascinating about what Henry Ford didn't just invent a car. He invented, and he had a vision. His vision was driven by a why, and the strong why was that he wanted to see, a transportation vehicles into the hands of every single person available. And what he wanted to do by building one car at a time, that wasn't going to work, wasn't going to fulfill his vision. So he actually had to invent the assembly line, which I didn't talk about last. He invented the entire assembly line, which is we see in most companies, or a lot of companies use today in building mass products and all the rest of it, and pumping this thing out. And he invented that because he had to find a way. They had to invent the gas stations. They had to invent, they had to create roads and the highway systems that we had because of this one man's vision. This one man's vision of building an automobile, all the rest of it. They had to change our entire structure of a nation around the world. Everything had to change. Like, for instance, let me just put it this way. In England, anybody ever drive in England? Okay, if you've ever driven in England, it's kind of weird, right, Charmaine? It's kind of weird in England how narrow the roads are. Like, it is insane. And they drive like maniacs, like at crazy speeds at roads where I'm feeling claustrophobic on this road. That's why all their cars are small in England. They don't, because our trucks wouldn't fit there. Like it wouldn't work. You're like the little cars, and they whip around these things and all the rest. And I was like, why are the roads so narrow? You know why the roads are so narrow? Is because in England, they built everything out of stone and brick. And these buildings have existed for literally hundreds, and some of the buildings are for thousands of years. So when Henry Ford invented the automobile, the roads and the whole road structure in England was built for a horse and buggy. We have wide roads here in Canada because we build out of wood. And it only lasts for... And so we're like, okay, we'll just move the houses. No problem, we can have wide roads. And if we're in Cardston or Raymond, you ever drive down Main Street in Cardston, Raymond? I remember when I moved down here, I was like, what's the deal? Like, why is Main Street so flippin' wide? Like, I was like, you drive down these, I was like, what? And you know what they said? They said, well, those roads were designed that wide for horse and buggies to turn around. You guys didn't know that? I was like, I thought it was, That's why they're so wide. It's for all this. And I was like, isn't it interesting how so much changed because of one man's vision of an automobile? Right, all these things. And from gas stations and oil companies, there's all these things. The other thing that's fascinating about the turn of the 20th century is that at the turn of the 20th century, the largest companies on the planet were the railroads. They were the biggest, most prosperous, biggest companies on the planet. And they stuck to, we are about trains, and we're railroads, and we're about this. If these companies had understood their why in saying, we're not about trains, we're about transportations, they'd still be the largest companies on the planet today. Because they would have, we're about transportation, they would own all the truck lines. They would own all the airlines. They had the money when airplanes were invented. They had the money to take over it all, and yet, no, we're going to stick to trains. Oops. Right? Trains are going to be here to stay. Listen, if we get stuck, I'm saying all this to say, if we get stuck in what has always been, and it's always been that way, and we do church like it's always been, and the service has to look like this. It's not about how the service looks, or what kind of music we play, or what we do to the building, or not do to the building. It's not about all of those things. It's about one thing, and one thing only. It's about going into all the world, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's about the kingdom of God. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We got to stick to our why. And the methods are going to change. What I said last night is what I learned from Henry Ford and all of the amazing things that came along with it is that vision's not enough. Like, vision is good, and we had vision last night, and I felt like it was a rocket launch of momentum in multiple ways. I was like, okay, does it feel different today? Anybody feel different driving into the parking lot today? Like, is that just me? You feel different driving in and going, something changed. Yeah, this sign, that's not the sign yet. Just wait. Another thing that got delayed. Just anyway, it's all good. But I mean, something's shifted. Something's changed. And it's not just the name. Something's changed. You feel it. You sense it. Something changed. Yeah, it's a release. It's the next level. But vision, that's good, but vision's not enough without structure to house it. And the amazing thing about Henry Ford and all the rest of it is that when he invented the car and released the car, the structure came as the need came. Right? All of a sudden, the critics went, well, you can't do that because of this. And all of a sudden, he had to change the structure and saying, well, we got to build roads. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh, we got to build gas stations. Oh, we got to train mechanics and train other people how to fix these things and set up garages everywhere, like, so people can have easy access to get their cars. I mean, think about how much changed because of that one idea about a self-propelled buggy, basically. And how much changed, and how much is still changing in all of that. And all of a sudden you go, well, wait a second, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this. And all of the structure's not going to be there. And so what I want to present to you our framework, but knowing that there's going to be lots of details in the structure, but we have to stay on vision and drive the vision, but we need to have freedom within the framework. And you're going to hear me say this over and over and over and over again as that phrase is, we need to have freedom within the framework. And that means, do we have to be cookie cutter on every campus? No. Does that mean everything has to look exact? No, we have freedom within the framework, and we're going to be driven by our why, not by our what's. And we're going to have freedom within the framework, and we're going to know that the structure, we're going to pay attention and going the structure to house the vision. Like I read last night, Jesus said this, you can't put old wine into new wineskins. In other words, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. You can't put new vision into old structures. Sometimes the structure has to change. Now with that, I mean, you guys got some of your notes. You're seeing the table and chairs there. And you're going, wait a second, this looks familiar. Yes, it does. This is, Jen and I were talking about this just before this thing. I was like, exactly. I feel like we've been practicing for like 5, 6 years, 7 years. Yeah, training and practicing and going, okay, what's working? And I feel like, I was like, okay, now we're ready to run, we're ready to sprint, and going, we've worked out a lot of the kinks and all the rest of it. And something in all of this process in me just went ka-chunk, ka-chunk, like everything just went, ah. And I don't know if, let me just put it in language that maybe you feel, from last night and all the rest of it. When you hear like our vision statement, our culture statement, all the stuff that we're going to give you today, it doesn't feel like this is so brand new and so unfamiliar that we're going to have to learn how to do that. It feels like this is language to us. This is us. This is what we do. This is what we've been doing and all of that. So I say all that to say that when we go through this, some of this stuff is familiar, but some of this stuff is just the framework, but some of this is we're going to put structure to the framework, and then we're going to realize that we're just inventing a car. We're inventing a car, a movement that is, I feel, is now moving. All right, and we created a movement. Now we're going to create a framework and a structure, and we're going to adjust it as we know, as the need comes up and as this goes up. And also, we will listen with open ears to the critics, because there's going to be a few. Because change always brings that. I'm kind of used to that by now. It's all good. But we don't ignore them. We listen and go, that for every pile of dirt, there's an ounce of gold. And because of the critics, Henry Ford invented gas stations. Because of the critics, Henry Ford, built mechanics and garages and all the rest. Because of the critics, they put the assembly line. And because of all this, like he did all this kind of stuff because he listened and didn't cower in all of that and going, oh no. He went, no, wait a second. There's a truth in there. We could do that better. We could do this. Is this making sense? All right, let's go through our notes. In your notes, what is we do this, we've always done this. I'm going to draw just because that's what I got to do. And then I read a book recently on visionaries, and it's I'm not using green. That's not even going to be. I'll use purple. Man, I so appreciate Pastor Larry Bry from Elevation Church, and I saw his T-shirt, and I was like, "Love you, Pastor Larry. Thank you for doing that. That was awesome." I was like, "You did that just for me," because we connected. When we connected and talked, and we're talking church and all the rest of it, and we found out that we're both Vikings fans, and he's in North Carolina, and I'm in Canada, and we were just like, family. And it's amazing. It's good. We part of the structure and what we do, and this is how we do it. And for some of you that have heard this before, some of this is going to be repeat, but I want you to listen with New Year's because this is Parallel Church now. And some of you who haven't heard this, I'm going to go through some of these details again. But this is launch and what we do and why we do and crazy thinking. And I read this book on visionaries, and they said, all these qualifications of a visionary, and they said one of the qualifications of visionary is that you think on paper and you have to draw. And I was like, oh, yes. So on your notes. We start with, and the purple doesn't work. That was Jamie's fault. That was you, wasn't it? After all of that. That wasn't funny. That was not good. There goes my season. I was already gone, so it's all good. All right. But we did. It's going to make me do green, isn't it? Jamie, did you do this on purpose? Do we have black or anywhere? No? Let's go. Oh, there we go. Brown works. That's not good. We're playing Cleveland this weekend. Can't do that. Red work? Oh, there we go. There's some, there we go. Thank you. Sarah to the rescue. Jamie, I think Sarah's a closet Vikings fan, just saying. Heard her say that, yeah. Please work. Yes. All right. So, if you can't see on the sides, I apologize, just watch on the screens up there. But everything starts with the mission. Mission defines why. Right? We start with the why. And it always starts with the why. If you focus, this is where churches and religion and businesses, everything gets really weird, is when you focus on your what. And this is why the railroad stations, the railroad companies, they lost it. This is why Kodak is no longer a company, is they said, no, we're not going into digital, because they thought they were about photographs instead of about photography. Like they got so stuck. This is why Blockbuster got overthrown. We don't see them anymore anywhere, because they're like, no, we do videos and DVDs, and we don't do digital. And there's other companies that come up, and if Netflix does the same thing and they get stuck in one way or one method, they'll be gone too. Like, companies come and go all the time. Churches come and go all the time because we get stuck in the what. Anybody come from a church stuck in well, we've never done it that way before. We do church for the same way all the time, all forever and ever. And if you walk back into the church that maybe you came from, you know exactly who's sitting in what chair, what the decor looks like, what the message would be preached. You know it all. So we get stuck in our whats because we don't want change. But we are not driven by that. We like change. Because it's about the gospel. It's about who we're reaching. It's not about our preferences. I have preferences, and everybody knows them, but what likes and dislikes. But it's not about me. So if a country song works, then unfortunately, we may, yeah. I will be away that Sunday. It's going to be great. Just say no. It's all good. But we start with the why. It's all about the mission. And our mission, our why, Jesus gave us, is called the Great Commission. right? This is not just an exclusive mission for Parallel Church. This is a mission for the cooperative church around the world. This mission does not change. Jesus gave it to us when he said to his disciples, go into all the world and preach the gospel, make disciples. He says, baptizing them. Jesus told them, where to go, what to do. This is the mission. And that mission doesn't change until Jesus comes back. Right? So that one's written in the kingdom, and that one we're going to do. So our mission, and you can fill it in on there, is to make disciples. That's not going to change. Well, that sounds the same as MyVictory. Yeah, because we're still a church. Right? It's still the cooperative church. That's our mission. Then you go to, the next part is you go to the vision. Right? So you go mission, vision. And then the vision's going to talk about, we'll talk about, what we do. And it's driven by the why. Then we get to the what. And the vision, this is where it's changed a little bit. And our vision, we can sum it all up in one slogan for love and impact. And I'll give you the longer version that will drive basically us as a core, but not something that we're going to, the longer version, that big vision statement, that's not what you're going to give to the public, because that drives us, right? That tells us, that gives us clarity on what we do. But in a short phrase you want to put in there, mission is to make disciples. Vision is for love and impact. Okay, and we'll talk about, all of that and what that looks like, for love and impact. And we'll be explaining a lot of that as we go and putting language to that and why that's so important. And it's interesting how we can redeem in a time like this the word love. Whenever I heard the word love, even when we started talking through this kind of stuff, every part of me was like, really? Like love? I mean, we talk about love, and we've made it so, we've taken the power of that word, but then you start looking at everything Jesus taught. He says, this new commandment I give you, love one another. He didn't say love God, he said love one another. And I was like, wait, he left the love God part out. What? No, love one another. And then John took that in 1 John and 2 John and 3 John and says, if you don't love one another, you can't love God. And I was like, Jesus is like, whoa. And somehow in the church, we've lost this emphasis on love. And somehow in the church, we've lost the main commandment, the main mission, the main thing to do is what happens if we overwhelmed our community with love. And I think, this is why I think the timing of this is so good, is I think love has more impact now, for love and impact. Love has more impact now than ever because the world is looking for excuses to hate. Society is looking for every excuse to divide and to separate and to hate and to categorize. And I see the same disgusting trend in the church. Right? Where we're right, you're wrong. Did you hear what that church is doing? This church is doing? Come on, we're not going to do that. There's churches in town that are requiring vaccine passports to get in. God bless them. There's churches in town that are anti-maskers and all the rest of it. God bless them. There's churches in town, all the rest of it. As long as they're preaching the gospel, I could care less what their other stands are. Right? But we love all. We got to love. All of that. There's people in our community that we disagree with. There's people in our community that disagree with us, that come against us on social media. Anybody ever had any disagreements on social media? Come on, let's just turn it all off. That's not us. That's not Parallel. We come alongside. And what I want to do today is this. Parallel is not. This is not just the church mission from me and from our staff and what we're going to do, and you get to be along for the ride. We operate 24/7, and we want you to operate Parallel at your workplace. Come alongside and support. We want you to operate Parallel in the community. We want you to operate Parallel even and aligning even with those that we disagree with and all the rest of it. If we can model this, it's going to be so opposite of what we see before us every day. And while everybody else is going their way and dividing, they're going to go, something's different about you. Our vision is for love and impact. And impact is a word that is that we're just not gonna sit around and say we love. We're not just gonna be all talk and say, yeah, we love you. We're praying for you. All the easy. We're gonna go to work, even when it's messy. We're gonna come alongside. We're gonna help, not just say, love you. We're going to come alongside and put some impact in this. And the impact we're going to have is we got a nation to change. Right? We got people who are looking for hope and looking for leadership, and we can offer both. So we're for love and impact. Then you get to the next part of that, and mission, vision, model. And the model is, okay, this is how we do this. So this is why, the vision is what, and the model is how we are going to put this into work. Now, the model, and we've done this before, the model that we've done in the past has been, and you guys hear it at the end of every single service, and I know you've heard it so many times that you've tuned out. Please don't, and we're not doing it for all of you who've heard it a million times, although after you've heard it, 1,001 times, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get it. It's amazing. So we keep saying it over and over and over again, but we have 5 next steps, and that's been our model. And that is slightly changing because of the vision and the structure. And you'll see how this works. But our model now, in the past, can any of you recite it back to me? Not the pastors on the front saying this. Anybody recite? What do we say? What do we say at the end of every service? Yeah, look at this. We got it. Yeah, and yes. Connect. Yeah. Sweet. Ah, you are listening. I did that right there for the campus pastors who felt like, well, nobody listens to us anyway. Do we have to? Yeah. They're listening. Look at that. That's amazing. Bravo. So good. We're going to change up our model a little bit. And this is because the vision changes. And again, it's driven by why, what, how. So we're changing this way. And some of these are the same, but the order changes a little bit. We're going to start, number 1, with love. And here's why we're doing this. Because we're going to love first before we get to number 2, which is attend. Okay? We're going to love first. Regardless if God matters to you or not, we're going to love you first. We're going to love you in the community first. We're going to love first. We're not going to love you if you just attend. And if you agree with us, we're going to love first. Okay, so love. Number 2 is attend. Okay, and we're going to say, I'll show you how this all works as we go along. We're going to love, attend, connect. And then we're going to say give. And the reason why we're using the word give is because we're encouraging everyone to say give, and give doesn't just mean finances, give of your time too. Because we're about impact. This is about this whole thing, and this is what shifted in me in COVID, is I was like, for most of my life, I've been pastoring as I've been taught and as I've been trained and as I always did. And the success of a pastor in all of my upbringing, Bible school, all the rest of it, is driven by how many people you can get to the bums in your seat on a Sunday morning. And I was like, that's all well and good, but if there's not change, and if there's not, that's all well and good. And then COVID went, when they took the bums out of the seat and restricted all the rest of it, I was like, wait, what's success now? All of our measurements went, like, all the rest of it went away. And I was like, wait. So I changed. And I was like, okay, it's not going to be about how many are, although y'all freaked me out last night with way more people than I was expecting. I was like, ay. Anyway, I was like, oh, man. Anyway. Yeah, I was like, well. But we had a party anyways, good. But it's not about how many bums in the seats we get. It's about how many we can activate for love and impact. And it's about equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. And the activation is it's not just giving your finances. We're going to need finances to propel this vision forward. It's not just giving of the finances and participating that way, but it's about giving of your time. Thank you, Colin, again. It's about, and all the volunteers that all the guys that worked and the staff and Sarah and Jen, all the rest are like way above and beyond. Like all these things, like it's about giving of your time and saying, okay, no, give. Like let's invest in all of us together, activating, moving this movement forward. So let's give. And then fifthly, it's going to be invite. Right? So invite is inviting people not just to attend, but inviting people to walk parallel with others. Inviting people to come alongside. Inviting people. And I love this. It was Glenn Vanderdew. I saw this on the comments online. Glenn said this. He says, it's amazing when I was training as a runner. He said that sometimes my coach was saying I was too slow and he wanted me to speed up on all the rest of it. And he was telling me. Then all of a sudden he just shut up and he ran alongside. And he says as soon as he ran alongside with me, I went with him at that pace and I started running at a faster rate. And I pushed myself to be able to do that. And he says that's what parallel means to me. And I was like, whoa, that's so good. Because that's what we're going to do. We want to invite people. We're going to invite people to run alongside us and saying, hey, we don't have to divide. We run alongside. We're going to run alongside. We're going to run with you at our workplace and say, I'm going to run alongside. Come on, let's go. Let's help. Instead of just telling people what the gospel means, we're going to show the gospel and invite people to participate in it. Amen. And then we get to our programming. Which our programming is going to be the table and chairs thing. And I'll show you what we're going to do because we're going to restructure and build a framework around our disciple. Everything drives mission, vision, model, programming. And programming is simply, you just ask the question, what's the best way to? Love, attend, connect, give, invite. What's the best way to? We're going to do that. Right? And then what's the model is driven by the vision. How do we do love and impact? Well, we love regardless. We love first. Right? We invite people to attend. We go through all of that. Now, when we get to the programming and the mission, all the rest of it, it's driven by our program is driven by our mission. And this is why the table and chairs, I think, is more relevant than ever before. And this is the thing because I've taught this so many times, it's insane. And so I get tired of it because I've taught it so many times. But this summer, this kind of solidified. This summer, I did a conference. I spoke at a conference, and I did the table and chairs kind of thing. And for some reason, I was like, I wasn't going to do it. And I thought, no. And I did this at a conference. Spoke at a conference, did the table and chairs, and the place came unglued. And in fact, the entire church restructured things, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, whoa. Okay, this is still very relevant. I was like, I got bored of it, but this just brings clarity. So the table and chairs are still in play, if that's okay. So I will do my worst circle again. We'll draw terrible chairs. It's working. It works. Looks similar-ish. All right, the table and chairs. This is, and for those of you who have never seen this before, this is based off of what happened when we got here 10 years ago and we started seeing so many souls getting saved. In fact, the first year we had 385 souls get saved, first-time salvations, cards turned in, all that. The next year we had over 500, but then which was all impressive and was all cool, and we're like, yay, celebrating all that. But then we realized how many people were actually plugging back in and making disciples, and we had 3% of the people that got saved on a Sunday come back and were able to disciple them. And I was like, ugh, greatly dissatisfied that because Jesus didn't tell us to go into all the world and make converts. He told us to go into all the world and make disciples. And so I was like, oh man, how do we do this? And we got to change some things up. And so we sat down as a staff, and Pastor John was on the team that time, and Pastor Ralph, and we sat down and we began going, well, let's look all throughout the Bible. Let's look in the Bible because Jesus told us to go into all the world and make disciples. He had to give us a plan. There has to be a plan in there of what to do and how this looks. And we came across 1 John chapter 2. In 1 John chapter 2, John writes to the early church, and he says, I write to you little children, I write to you young men, I write to you to fathers. And it says that twice in verse 12, 1 John 2, verse 12 and verse 14. It says, I write to you little children, young men, and fathers. And it suddenly hit me that he wasn't writing to the children's ministry. He wasn't writing to only the males in the youth group. He wasn't writing just to the men who had reproduced. He was talking about their spiritual development. And I was like, wait, what is a little child? A little child is somebody who's completely dependent. A little child is completely dependent on their parents to feed them, to clothe them, to put them to bed. Sorry about not getting to bed on time last night, parents. I know today's going to be fun. Anyway, it already was for us, but it's all good. But it's all everything. Hygiene, everything. We got to train. They're completely dependent on mom and dad. But eventually, they mature and they become young men or young women, and they start to become independent. Any parents of teenagers? That's what it is. Like, they become independent. All of a sudden, there's a stubborn. There's like, you don't tell me what to do, and all of a sudden, they're more influenced by their friends. Then that's always a fun shift as a parent. When you've got less influence than their friends, and it's like, and we all panic. We all do the same thing. It's all good. But they suddenly become independent. That's part of maturing. That's part of that whole thing. And little children require us to feed them. Young men feed themselves. A lot. All right, we had 3 of them at one time in our house. It's like, it's a natural phenomena. How much a young man can eat, it's a miracle. It's amazing. They feed themselves. But then he says, I write to you fathers. Well, what's a father? A father has dependence. A father is now one who's responsible for others. A father's one who's reproduced. So I was like, all of a sudden what John's saying is, I'm writing to you new believers who are dependent on someone else to teach you and to feed you the word and to give you understanding into what the Bible's all about and what Christianity is all about and how to talk with God and all this. I'm writing to you guys. And then he says, I'm writing to you young men who are independent, who are strong in the word because you're able to feed yourself, who have overcome the evil one. You've done some spiritual warfare, know how to overcome and fight that. I write to you guys. And he says, I write to you fathers, those who have dependence. And he's writing to these different sections in the church. And all of a sudden we went, wait a second, this is the progression of maturing into a disciple in Christ. And what would happen if we as a church, intentionally created a framework, a structure to help people progress in their faith. And then what a verse that jumped out at me in 1 Corinthians 3 is that Paul writes, and he says, he's writing to the church in Corinth, and he says, the problem with you, church of Corinth, is that you don't have enough fathers. In other words, the reason why you're not as effective as you want to is you don't have enough fathers, which I just went, wait a second, we've created an entire way of doing church where there's a father. Certain denominations call them, Father so-and-so. Pastor Ralph gets called that all the time because of the funerals he does. Father Ralph. All the rest of it. And you get called, and we've put that where there's one person who's supposed to do all the feeding. That's how we've created church. One person does all the feeding, but does all the feeding everybody else. And that's not what it's never meant to be, that we need to equip the saints to do the feeding and equip the saints to do the fathering. So because of that, we've gone through, we did the table and chairs, and we set it up because I draw, and I was like, we need to create movement. And so we put this first chair down here is we said that one is the unchurched or the not yet saved chair, the ones in our community that don't know. And we put them away from the table because this is the family of God. And how do we get them, the unchurched, to move to become born again? And we said, this is the born again chair. Jesus said, lest you be born again. And I found it interesting that Jesus referenced, salvation as a birth. In other words, these are the babies. Like, these are the newborns. And he called them born again. So he said, this is our newborns. This is the born agains. And then he says, I write to you little children. We said, this is the little children's chair. So I was like, we can get people to become born again, but then how do we get them to stay long enough to become little children? And you remain. Jesus said, if you remain in my word remains in you, you will know the truth, and truth will set you free. There's a key to remain. If you just remain, when you first get born again, you don't know everything. You don't know why in the world are people raising their hands. And when the songs go, like, what are they doing? Like, is this we surrender? Like, You're under arrest? Like, what is this? And we don't know. And how do you pray? And all the rest of it. And going, how do we get them to remain to where they're like, oh, and getting taught. And then they know the truth. And then that truth, whatever the truth they learn, sets them free. That's the progression. Then he said, I write to you young men, right, who are independent, strong in the word. They're like, we got people that need to be able to feed themselves the word. That if the only time you're worshiping is on Sunday morning, that's not enough. You're going to starve. If the only time you're opening your Bible is once a week, when I say, turn to, that's not enough. You're going to starve. If you ate one meal a week, you're still going to starve. You need, this is where I know, some of the language we use in church world is people saying, well, I just wish that we'd go deeper and give us meat and not milk. Like, we need meat in the preaching. That just tells me, listen, it's not my job to give you the meat. It's not my job to fill you up. It's my job to make you hungry so that you feed yourself. Right? To create a curiosity in the word. The strength is going to come not from one message a week. That's not enough. It's going to come from you feeding yourself. And we can do that. And then it's not about just becoming young men. You've got to become fathers or mothers and lead someone else to Jesus and walk along. And it's amazing how many people in church attend our church and criticize what we do or how we do it and going, well, how come the worship is so short? Or how come you guys don't do this and you don't do that? And they criticize all the whats of what we do until they bring an unsaved relative or friend there, and then they're going, oh, thank you for not, oh, I get it now. And when they see somebody that they brought to church get saved, a family member, because they understood and all this, we hear it all the time. Man, I understood that. They come to church expecting we're going to talk over their heads. And a lot do. Right? But we got to put it in a way that they can digest enough to remain, to feed themselves, to then reproduce and have somebody else walk them along and coach them along and disciple them along. That's what we do. That's why we do it. So all of that is important for what we do. Now, with that, we decided through this whole process and restructuring and putting a framework and putting structure to what we're going to do, we decided that we're going to basically put departments into place responsible for each chair. And let me show you how this works. Okay, so if you're a drawer like me, you got the table and chairs on there, you can draw a big box right beside the unchurched chair. And what I want to do is beside that or underneath it or whatever, wherever you got room on there, is draw a big box. And this is what we're going to have in this chair. We're going to have the department for reaching our community is going to be My City Care. And I said this last night, and this is what my vision is. I've changed my whole strategy and all the rest of just praying through this and what we're meaning by My City Care and what our country needs and what the world needs in many ways. And how I see, it's amazing how you don't see little details until, even in how Jesus ministered. Did you ever notice that Jesus went into a city? He didn't set up at a pulpit and start preaching. You ever notice Jesus went into a city and he fed the hungry, he healed the sick, he went to Zacchaeus' house for a meal, he met felt needs first, and then people that would gather around him because they saw all these miracles and how many needs he was meeting, then he'd share with them a little truth and then move on. That he never set up congregations everywhere, never set up, established an organization. He could have easily. He had thousands following him. He didn't do all that. He met needs first. And I was like, man, Jesus he says, love others as I have loved you. They saw him love all first. So I thought, we're going to set up My City Care. And instead of church planting, we're going to My City Care plant. What does that look like? We're figuring that out. Well, what it looks like is what we did in Medicine Hat. And we've got other cities going, hey, could you do that too? What you did there is that all of a sudden we had a church and saying, we'd like to do what could you teach us how to do My City Care? And we're like, well, better yet, why don't we give you My City Care, and we'll set it up for you and all the rest of it. You guys can set up My City Care Medicine Hat. And it wasn't a MyVictory church at that time. It's not a parallel church. It's a completely different church. And we're like, you set up My City Care. It's yours. We give it to you. And then we go and we came alongside, and our team did an amazing job. We came alongside and we trained them. This is what to do and this is how to do it. And they kept on saying over and over again, thank you for making this so easy. Because churches it's not that churches don't want to, they just don't know how. Right, so you come along and you pull in with your trailers and you set up, and our volunteers go to work, and we've learned what to do and what not to do. And it's just like boom, 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 boom. And then we tell their volunteers, hey, go do this and do that and do that, da, da, da. All the rest of it, they're like, this is easy. And then guess what happens? We activate 500 people last Saturday. 500 people showing up to get clothes and food, all the rest of it, to get hampers, and all, like 500 people showing up for help in Medicine Hat. Two churches, the Bridge Church and Victory Lutheran Church, partnered together, and we activated the Medicine Hat Church to do that. And so we're like, we want to do that. We want to help one city after another city after another city. And we've proven that My City Care works in Okotoks. We've proven that it works in Claire's home. We've proven, vote for Chelsea. But anyway, just a little plug there. Mayor of Claire's home, that would be sweet. Anyway, we proved that it's working in Lloydminster. We proved like it's working in all these different communities. We've proved that it works in Medicine Hat with other churches. Like we've proven that this can work. And if we can activate other churches to do this, we'll plant My City Cares. And this guess what? There's another community that we're launching now in can I say, are we good to go? We're going to Swift Current. Okay, My City Care is launching right away to Swift Current. They're going to run, are they running Thankful Boxes first, or they're running Shop of Wonders? So they're going to start with Shop of Wonders in Swift Current and the neighboring communities, and there's a whole team. There's 7 different churches there that are partnering with us now to do the exact same thing in Swift Current. Isn't that cool? And we'll take the next one. And they're like, do you think this would work? Can you imagine like trucks rolling into some of these small towns, My City Care trucks? And I was like, oh yeah. You're talking to the wrong guy if you're like, can you imagine? Yeah. You don't want to see what's in this brain. Okay? We got board members here. The ones that plug your ears. I envision massive, we got 43 acres we're sitting on right here. I envision massive warehouses full of stuff with trucks rolling in and out, going across the nation. My City Care trucks, all the rest of it, pulling into city after city after city, setting up and meeting the needs and the poor, all the rest of it. This is how we plan. This is how we take our nation back. Putting structure. Now here's the vision. Here's the vision of My City Care. Any of the My City Care team, this is what My City Care is about. And this is why we put it here. The vision of My City Care is to endear our community. My notes are all messed up. Okay, it's to endear the community. So what does that mean? What is My City Care's vision? How do we know if My City Care is working? Is when we endear the community. And guess what? That means, and this is what I'm most proud of with My City Care, all the rest, it's great, and we could be one church just reaching people, and we'd reach a few little people and all the rest. But you know why we're having such an impact in each of our communities? Is because we come alongside the food banks. We come alongside these all these other agencies that we're working with, like in the city. And like we're not trying to take somebody's job away and do all the rest of it. We're coming alongside and it's like, let's just meet needs and let's find ways, and we're partnering. And all of a sudden, we have churches in Lethbridge that are lining up and saying, we want to partner with you. And we are My City Care. And we're not changing the name of My City Care because it's not about a church name, because I don't want anyone to think that it's associated or just us. This is about activating the global church. And we're saying, well, what's the name? Because we want you to take care of your city. This is my city care. What are we going to care for? We're not going to care. We'll care for the rest of the world by activating each church, each location. And here's the vision with this, is that we'll plant a My City Care. And if there's a church that is a soul-winning church that people that we're reaching with My City Care can align with and go to, we will align with that church and we'll filter them into that church so they can get discipled too. But if we go into a city and there's no church where the people that we're reaching on the street feel comfortable to go into, that's when we plant. My City Care first, love all first, and then the next one is the born again. And we're going, what's this year? What's the department here? This is the church. This is the church services. This is we'll call it parallel programming. Okay, and it's going to be the parallel programming is going to be, and that's going to be our weekend services. And this is the vision of our service programming and all the rest of it. You guys saw last night, like. We can do church. We can do services. We can do that for everybody. All the rest of it. We can do this. But the way we do churches, and the way we do churches is we do church. The reason why we do church the way we do church is to reach the lost. Right? And going, well, and I get this all the time. Well, I'm a Christian, but you're focused on reaching the lost. What about us? Feed yourself. And activate to be fathers and activate and do this stuff. And let's be the hands and feet of Jesus. And let's love one another. How do you know if we love all, we're following Jesus' command? Come on. Right? So our programming, and this is the programming that we're doing. This is why we put it there. This is the best way. It's still the best way to get people born again. Every single Sunday we get souls saved everywhere. And people are getting. If I was to ask how many of you got saved in one of our services in the last 10 years? Anybody? Hands all over the place. See, look at now you're in the leadership thing. Isn't this cool? Discipleship works. But watch, look at all these things are going. We get the best way to get people born again is still the way we do church. And we want to partner with other churches doing the same thing. That's why it's so cool to have Pastor Leon, who does the same thing, and Pastor Jacob, who does the same thing, and Pastor Jonathan, who does the same thing, and Pastor Walter, who does the same thing, and Dan Nichols doing the same thing, and Pastor Daniel from the Miz City Church is doing the same thing. Like all these things, you look at all this stuff and going, we're partnering with churches like this, and you can see, just a few of the people that we're partnering with around North America, and going, there's pastors that we're partnering with that are doing the same thing. And we're not here to say it's just about us. We're here to come alongside any church is soul winning and partnering and all the rest of it, and activate the church and all the rest of it. Who cares who gets the credit? This is about the kingdom. This is not about an organization. This is about the kingdom. And we go into a city and we find a soul-winning church, we'll say, hey, you need to do My City Care. And it's yours. God bless you. And we'll move on to the next city. And we go to a city where they're like, there's no church in our town that's reaching souls. There's no church where the people that we're reaching on the streets can feel safe in or are going to get discipled properly. And then we'll go, that's where we plant. That's going to be the next campus. That's the next thing. So that's parallel programming. Then we get to this one, the little children's chair, and this is where we're adding some things to our structure. This is where we start adding, like Henry Ford had to add, mechanics and garages in order to have people, when their car broke down, something close that they could access to somebody that could fix their car, and all the rest of it. So we're gonna add some garages to this thing. Is that okay? All right. So the garage we're adding is we're adding. This one is going to be called Parallel Care. And what this is we're adding Parallel Care is going to be a counseling center. Pastor Ralph, did you catch that cheer? Okay, there we go. It's good. No, listen, this is my vision for this. We're going to add counseling centers because there are so many people that are hopeless and dealing with mental health issues and dealing with struggles in marriages like never before, and it's only getting worse, and there's tensions now there's so much division going on even in marriages and relationships and mental health issues and all the rest of it. And it's saying we as the church need to be the hope. We can't rely on just we gotta be the hope. We gotta be the answer. And there's a lot of people that are hurting and broken. And we put it in this one because little children, they just don't know how to take care of it. We don't know how to do this. And sometimes we're hurting. We got to take care of the hurting first before we get to the activation and all the rest of it. We can't be negligent to the hurting and to those who need healing up, and that there's a season and going, I just need healing. I need, like, when you got a leg that's broken, you go to the hospital, you get it cast set, and it's inconvenient for 6 weeks and all the rest of it going on, but you need to get healed up before you can go back to work. And sometimes when we got mental health issues and marriage problems and something, sometimes you need to go somewhere to get the cast on, and I'm going to have a limp for 6 weeks, or it's going to be awkward for 6 weeks, and I might be not able to run at the full speed that I could before for 6 weeks, but I need to go to a doctor and I need to get healed up. So we're starting Parallel Care, and Pastor Ralph and Cindy are going to head this up, and they're going to be training counselors and all that. And here's what I envision. You don't get in my head with imaginations, but I envision we go into every community, and there's a My City Care office and a location with warehouse where people in My City Care is set up, and we have a church set up in another building, and then we have a counseling center set up in another building, and we've got Parallel Care, we've got churches, and we've got and again, if there's places that are counselors, we'll train and equip counselors in different cities and different churches and help this, and we'll do whatever we can to help those who need help. And the vision for Parallel Care is to love and care for all. So it'll be counseling centers. We're also going to do care groups. Okay, and care groups are going to be, celebrate recoveries and grief shares and different types of, divorce care and all these different types of small groups that last for, the Alpha Marriage series that lasts for 6-7 weeks that you can go through that basically they're intensive and basically counseling type stuff that can heal you up and go. Is that good? Okay. That's going to be that. Then the next one, young men chairs, we're going to call this one Parallel Connect. Okay, and Parallel Connect is going to be we're going to do anything, and the vision behind Parallel Connect is to build authentic relationships. To build authentic relationships. That Jesus' greatest command is to love one another. So it starts with authentic relationships first. And so we need to do whatever we possibly can as a church to build authentic relationships. So we use the word Parallel Connect because we want people to connect. That's going to be the vision, the mission behind all this. But we're changing. We're not going to have connect groups anymore. What about my connect group? We're going to have groups. We're just going to change the name, and we're changing the name of it because connect groups, it's nice and it's good and it's the purpose, all the rest of it. But it comes into like we're activating it like a Bible study or like a forced kind of thing, all the rest of them are like, no, forget that. That's not what we want. What do we want? We want a party. Wasn't last night fun, just hanging out with people? Wasn't that fun? It's so refreshing just to like see people like, like just to like connect and have fun, laugh together, all the rest of it. So we're changing our connect groups, and we're going to call them house parties. Because what do we have to do at a house party? Everyone's like, what do we do? What are we going to do at a house party? Have fun. Hang out with people. Might be a few things if it's a church-endorsed one that we want you not to do. But we want you to hang out, have fun. Like, what do we do? Like, just hang out. Like, if you open the Bible and you get the discussion goes there, then great. But if you don't, great. If there's prayer that happens, awesome. It happens, great. If it doesn't happen, okay. Like, not a big deal. But what's the whole purpose? We want you to build authentic relationships. Build authentic relationships. Hang out with people you like. Build authentic relationships. What do? You do whatever you want. If you want to go on motorcycles, go on motorcycles. If you want to go hiking, go hiking. If you want to go camping together, go camping together. Just hang out. Have fun. If you get together with people in the church, that's a house party. That's like just hang out, have fun. And here's what's going to happen. If you build authentic relationships, guess what? When there's a need among you, you're going to pray. When someone needs a hand up, you're going to open the word and say, man, this has really ministered to me. I think it'll minister to you too. And it happens way more authentic, doesn't it? Rather than sitting down and being forced. Come on, just hang out. So Pastor Renee and Jill are going to be in charge of that and getting that going and having house parties. Volunteers. We turn church into a party. Come on. And I love it because, man, Pastor Leon and Pastor Jakin are like, man, we got to party more. That's what they got out of last night. We got to party more. And I was like, yes. Kingdom of God is a party. Let's go. That's what we want. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I went to that house party, and I was like, in their little house at the time there's 50 people in that room. I was like, what? This is a party, and everyone's laughing, having fun. I was like, yeah. And out of that came a church. You think? Absolutely. So good. All right, and the last one here, and I've already gone way over time. It's good. Surprise, surprise. This is, come on. The last one, fathers, this one is going to be parallel leaders. And it's interesting because Pastor Leon said this last night, and I was like in my office afterwards. And he says, you know what is lacking in our nation most of all? Because we're talking about all the craziness that goes on. We talk about this as pastors all the time, all the craziness going on and what's going on, and like what's happening and what do we do? And it just kind of leads, I mean, the message last night, everything kind of leads into like these times and going, but we're the answer. Like that's the church is the answer. And this thing, he says, you know what's lacking in our nation most of all? Leadership. Real leadership. Title's not leadership. Just because you got most votes isn't leadership. Doesn't mean you're a leader. Right? We're needing leaders. And I think the church is most equipped to train leaders. So we're starting, again, something else and saying, okay, how are we going to do this? We're going to start parallel leaders. And the vision of parallel leaders is to equip our core. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine the podcasts, the monthly staff meetings, the internship stuff that we've done. We're going to do the one-on-one mentorship that we've done. And we're going to build, an entire program around that. The whole thing is we're going to equip you in leadership, and not just church leadership. No. We're going to equip you in personal leadership, in business leadership, in spiritual leadership, and in church leadership. We're going to equip you in leadership in any possible way. And if we can double down on this thing and raise up leaders, you're going to be way more successful in your business, because this is what leaders do. Leaders solve problems. That's what leaders do. And if we can equip you and train you how to solve problems, if you lose your job, you're not, because of certain mandates and all the rest of it, you're not going to panic because you're a problem solver. And you're going, that's okay, you can take my job away. I'll start a company. No big deal. We got this. We can solve that problem. You want to take this away? No problem. We got this. We can solve that problem too. Whatever it is, we can. And all of a sudden we walk with confidence. Leaders walk with confidence. All of a sudden we walk with confidence and we have leadership. Guess what? People are attracted to leadership. And I think if we just happen to equip the best leaders come out of the church, then guess who gets the most influence? And we can change our world. So let's equip parallel leaders. So if you look at this, now you're going, okay, My City Care, what we do, our church services, parallel care, parallel connect, parallel leaders. This is a framework that works corporately, but is a framework that works in Lloydminster. With My City Care, our church service, we can provide counseling, we can do house parties and groups and all the rest of it, and we can train leaders. It works in Claresholm. It works everywhere we go. And we build a framework. And how do we do that? Well, you figured out what's the best way to utilize My City Care, because every city has different needs. We're not going to cookie cutter, just give you freedom within a framework. What's the need in your city? Let's meet it. What's the best way to reach people and get them born again in your city? Let's meet it. What do we need for counseling? Let's meet it. How do we build authentic relationships? Let's meet it. Right? It looks different everywhere. How do we raise leaders? Let's equip and we just build a framework, and we say this is what we do, and we activate the church. And then we train other churches to do the same thing. Make disciples. Now, in your notes, let's go through this quickly, and I'll aim to get done, Sarah, in 10 minutes, and then we can go and to the next fun part. Our values. Anybody see any banners in the lobby? We kind of leaked all this out there. Well, give you a meaning of what all of it's about. Our values is to love all. Number one, we love all. Jesus' most important commandment. This new commandment I give, love all. And then, man, one day when we have time, I'll give you all the scripture. It's amazing. Every single one of Paul's letters, of Peter's books, of James's books, of John's books, every single one of them reiterates this over and over and over and over again, as the main thing for the church is to love first. And I was like, how did we miss it? How did we miss this? It's everywhere in there. This is what made them successful, is they loved all. And then it sounds easy. Except for love as Jesus is loved, who aligned with those he didn't even agree with or didn't agree with him. He aligned with them anyway. Man, I love that. Like, there's so much we can learn. This is hard work. Just this value alone and just putting it on a wall. I was a little bit nervous because I was like, no, we got to do that now. Love all. Like I'm like, now we're accountable. Like, we got to do this. And that's not just from the pulpit. If we do it from the pulpit and it's not done here, oh man, that is completely backwards. And I wouldn't put this on the wall up there if I didn't think all of you could do it. Because you model this all the time. We got the culture now. We got it. We got it. We're doing this, but we're going to love all. And our statement behind that is we acknowledge the imperfection in ourselves. That's where it starts. How do you love somebody else who's got faults? You recognize, I got them too. And I'm not gonna compare your sin to my sin. And we got to get away from this categorizing of greater sins. Sin is sin. There's not one greater sin. The church has got really great at categorizing sins and putting on a mark, like which one is the greater sin? The sin is sin. It's missing the mark. Doesn't matter if you miss the mark by an inch or you miss it by a mile. You still missed. And I'm not going to compare my mile to your inch. It doesn't. We're not going to do that. So we're going to acknowledge the imperfection in ourselves, and those in our community acknowledge that they're imperfect too, and be okay with it. But we are dedicated to loving all. Second value is community. And this is the parallel connect kind of thing. We want to build community. Sarah's got really big hair, so I can't read. I just looked, I was like, pointed out, so that was awesome. So good. Well, community. We want to build authentic relationships. We talked about, but we build a safe, and listen, we want to build a safe and lasting community of individuals on a parallel journey. Safe and lasting community. I don't know, I'm telling you, this is an incredibly difficult time to lead with all the craziness going on in our world. And I want you guys to hear my heart, because if people are going to ask you first before they ever ask me. I want you guys to hear my heart with COVID and the rules and mandates and not mandates and all that. I have my own opinions, and I tried my best to keep them all to myself. But this is what we try to do as a church. Listen, I will never turn away somebody from having an opportunity to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. So if they want to come in and they refuse to wear a mask, I'm not going to turn you away because of a piece of cloth on your face for you to hear and have your eternity affected. I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, I want to create a safe and lasting community. Like we can't be stupid about all this stuff and going, well, I'm not, all the rest of it going, COVID's a real thing. It's a real, and we've got to create we got to create a safe community as well. So we want to respectfully do that. And I'm not here to say mask, not mask. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to walk that line and saying I agree and I don't agree. All the rest of it. I'm going to say we're going to do church. We're going to stay on our mission. We're going to do this, and we're going to do whatever we possibly can to build community and love all. And we're going to do it in such a way that we can sit with the masked and the unmasked, the vaccinated and the not vaccinated, and all the rest of it, and we can get along, and we can love all. And we're not going to do too many full services like last night. We tried really hard. We had 250 kids outside and another 200 volunteers out there, out of this room, never mind what was in this room. And I was like, man, I was like, that's more than we had on list. I don't know how did that happen, but I was like, what in the world? I got up in here, I was like, oh no. Oh, man. Oh, man. I was like, we're going to party anyway, because it's about the kingdom, and it's all, yeah. And I'll take the flack or whatever, it'll come. But I want you guys, is that okay? I want you to know my heart. I'm not here to stand with the vaxxed or the non-vaxxed. I'm not here to stand with the masked or the non-masked. That's not my job. My job is to preach the gospel, and we're going to do whatever we can, and we're going to buy. I don't want to rebel against the government. Rebelling against the government on something as silly as, like, come on, there's other hills to die on. I'm not gonna rebel or create. Honestly, I'm not even panicked. Government's taking our rights away. Okay, who cares? We're gonna render them irrelevant anyway. That's okay. We'll take their job away. You know why there's so much angst? Is because everyone's put their hope there. And everyone's disappointed and shocked that they lied. Like, hello? What do you think was going to happen? And we're shocked that the lost are acting lost. Like, what? Let them do what they're going to do. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's. We got a job to do. They asked Jesus, do we pay our taxes? Because he was teaching things that seemed anti-governmental. He's paid your taxes. He's like, whose face is on the coin? He's like, you know how much time Jesus paid attention to that whole argument? He didn't go into a big diatribe. He's like, pay to Caesar what's Caesar's. Let's move on. I got a mission. It's okay. We're a parallel church. We come alongside the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, the masked and the unmasked, the circumcised. Ralph just set himself up for a new job. We got to check that at the door too. Parallel care has a whole new meaning. I'm just saying. My goodness. Wow. And if you guys got issues with what we do as a church, and please talk to me. Say, can we do this better? Probably. Are we going to make mistakes? Probably. All the rest of it, but let's stay on mission. It's about making disciples first. Let's stay on mission. If we can get more creative and all the rest of it, let's stay on mission. Number 3, third value is authenticity. Authenticity is, we want to be authentic in our vision and dedicated to the community we're building in. We don't want to just talk the talk, we want to be authentic. What people need in society today is people that are real. Like, social media has created incredible, stupid mess. Like, people put on faces on social media that life's all good and everything's all great and life's falling apart, but they can show up and make sure that their social media is better than somebody else's social media and feel a little bit better about themselves. People see phonies a mile away. They're like, oh, no, we're just going to be authentic. And we're going to acknowledge, I hope you guys see in my preaching and all the rest of it, it's authentic. It's just saying, hey, man, I'm struggling with this. I'm messed up with this. Let's just be real. Let's not talk down to people and pretend we got it all figured out. We're going to go, I'm hurting too. I'm confused too. I'm angry too. Let's just walk alongside. We'll figure this out together. But we're going to be real. Number 4, our fourth value is disruption. Yeah. I love this one. This kind of sounds like me. We're going to redefine what it means to be part of a church community. Creating engaging and impactful experiences that are grounded in love, mercy, and integrity. And the disruption part is we are going to disrupt religion like crazy. Why? Because Jesus did. And he poked at it. You think Jesus is all meek and mild, man? Read Matthew 23. I was like, man, can you imagine what Jesus saying? You brood of vipers, you whitewashed tombs. You look great on the outside, but on the inside, you're full of rotting maggots. I was like, whoa. And Jesus said, love like me. Yes, I can do that. But listen. Jesus loved the broken, the wounding, everyone that missed the mark. But what he could not stand is inauthenticity and people that use God to control and manipulate and empower. And what made Jesus so mad is he's like, you're misrepresenting my Father, and you're saying it in my Father's name. How dare you? And I was talking with Boyd earlier, and I was like, man, I don't want to be called a Christian anymore. Put that on tape. Because listen, Christians got these connotations. And anyone and everyone can call them, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. And it means diddly squat, like, vote for me, I'm a Christian. Yeah, but you're incompetent. Yeah, you don't have a first clue how to do this job. But you're a Christian, so I'm just supposed to vote for you because I'm a Christian. Really? But you believe this and you don't do this? You're not following the God at all. You're not Christ-like at all. You're not following any of these things. You call yourself a Christian. It's all good. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. We're kingdom people. I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father but by him. I'm a believer, but I don't want to be labeled. We got to disrupt some things and go, no, wait a second. We got to separate ourselves from religion and going, no. That's why we're rebranding, renaming. Let me be real. I'm going to say this tomorrow too. Let me really, because people have asked me, Pastor Renee, somebody asked me the same question. They're like, well, why can't we just do this under the Victory name? Like, why do we have to change the name? Let me tell you why. Because the name of Victory has a reputation in southern Alberta as somebody that does not get along with other churches and other ministries and all the rest of it and doesn't do that. And I was like, we have to separate ourselves from that to say this is different. We're coming alongside, and we can say it, but there's a connotation that comes along with that stigma and going, we can't. Disruption. Our purpose statement, we talked about this last night. It's going to be on the screen. You can fill it in there. I want you to write it out because when you write it out, you remember it more. But we are a movement of imperfect people who are trading religion for relationship, committing to love and impact our communities. We're a movement of imperfect people, that's the authenticity, trading religion, that's the disruption, for relationship, committing to love, that's the love all, and impact, we're going to make a difference in our communities. Can you get behind that? Come on. Our vision statement, this is the big one, it's for love and impact, but this is our vision statement. Whoa, go back, okay. Write it up, there we go. And I'm 1 minute over of I lied, Sarah. I'm going to be authentic. Oops. I've been bottling this stuff up for like 9 months, so I got to get it out. That's all good. Nobody got shot. Hey, we didn't have to fight. Yeah, I told the staff, you guys leak it out. Yeah, someone's going to get fired or shot, one of the two. We did good. So good. It was hard. It was hard for me. I was like, hey. All right, we got it? Okay, our vision statement. This one you can start writing now. Our vision statement is to be a movement of local, focused, soul-winning churches. What does that mean? Yeah, just take a picture of it. There we go. Local focus, that means we're going to be our city first. Soul-winning churches, this means that we're going to partner with, or we're going to be a movement. A movement doesn't mean it's not an organization. That doesn't mean it's all about us or has to have our name on the door, all the rest. We're going to be a movement. We're going to create movement of local focused, soul-winning churches committed to reaching and endearing our communities, which is, look what this vision is. Committed to reaching and endearing our communities. My City Care. Okay? Inspiring and connecting our audience. That's our church services. And equipping and releasing our core to love and impact the world. Yeah? This is what we're going to do. This is our what? We're going to reach and endear our communities, inspire and connect our audience, and equip and release our core to love and impact the world. Everyone's written those out? Wow, you guys are fast. That's good. It's like watching Margie. Yeah. You'll see it in multiple different places. But I want you guys, we want to get this into our heart. This feels like us, doesn't it? This is us. Our slogan, you're going to see it everywhere, for love and impact. We've already talked about that. Based on this scripture in John 13, verse 34. And this is probably the most important verse in all the New Testament. Maybe the entire Bible. A new command I give you, love one another. That's love. As I have loved you, that's impactful. Isn't it? So you must love one another. That's John 13, 34. All right, our culture codes. We went from 10 to 3. Woo! 3 is easier to remember. Here's our culture codes. Number 1, intentionality wins. Intentionality wins by considering what matters most to make the relationship and experience we have effective. Now listen, what does intentionality means wins? I'm just going to say statements. You don't have to write these down. You're going to hear them over and over and over again. Don't worry about this. But I just write down intentionality wins. This means that, what does it mean? This means that being intentional is more important than being brilliant. It means that purpose, not preference, drives our decisions. It means that creativity and change serve a purpose. It means that we value people and help them live out their purpose. It means that environments matter. Did anybody feel like the tension? You walked into the room yesterday and going, like the anticipation builds up because the environments, didn't the team do an amazing job? You're coming in, there's curtains. You're like, what's behind that curtain? And also you come into the room and there's like, the red curtains are closed. I didn't even know we had red curtains. And we close them and you're like, well, what's behind that curtain? Is this the reveal? And then it opens up, and like, what's going on? Everything matters. Because when you release it, like, We are strategic. It means that we are strategic, not reactionary. It means we don't take relationships for granted, and we steward them by inviting people to be a part of what God is doing here. And it means that intentionality wins. It means that time and money spent is well thought out. Second culture code, number 2, is embrace grit and grace. How did Tim know when he wrote grit and grace? Coincidence? No, we knew. We've been dripping this stuff on you guys. We've been using this language for like 6 months. You guys have no idea, isn't it? It's been fun. You know how many times I've said parallel in my messages in the... And nobody, right? I've been we got to come alongside. We should be parallel. Yeah. What's that? I'm fired. At least not shot. That's good. Okay. Embrace grit and grace by stepping up together to serve and love people regardless. Grace is God's unmerited favor. This means that we get involved in people's lives no matter how messy. It means that we believe everybody matters to God, whether God matters to them or not. It means that perfection isn't required to be accepted. It means that love has no contingencies. It means that we align even if we don't agree. It means that your best is enough. It means that we celebrate differences in each other. It means we have tough but necessary conversations. It means that we serve together. It means we find possibility in pressure. It means we make serving God and loving people fun even when it's difficult. I say this often, but I was like, imagine a world where people skeptical of what we believe are envious of how well we treat each other and how well we treat them. We embrace grit and grace. Number 3, third culture code is always make better. Always make better. We're going to do whatever it takes to improve as a church, as individuals, and the lives and of those in our community. And this means that we never insult God with small thinking and safe living. It means we constantly improve. It means the best ideas win, and we are not easily offended. Let me say that one again. It means the best idea wins, and we're not easily offended. Because don't we attach our egos to our ideas? But it's not about whose idea, it's about what's the best idea to move the mission forward. It means we create experiences that cause people to say, I'm glad I came and I can't wait to come back. It means that purpose is constant, but systems and methods change. It means we aren't afraid to think outside of the box and how we treat people. It means that ideas are welcome and we fail forward. It means that we are possibility and solution-minded. It means that nothing improves alone and collaboration strengthens us. It means we fortify our impact by training and raising others up. And it means that generosity is an investment into bettering lives. And it means that our giving doesn't get us into heaven, but it might help someone else get there. It means we build people up, not tear them down. We always make better. Amen? Does this sound like us? We are Parallel Church. Man, I saw on social media today, I was like scrolling through all that stuff and seeing all the stuff, and how many of you just, like at the end of your statement, we are Parallel Church. I was like, man, that's the declaration. I love it. It's like, we are. This is what we are. We are the church. Awesome. All right, Sarah, come on up. Give us some instructions of what we're doing next. I love you all. Thank you so much for all your investment into this thing and everything that you guys do. Man, we just created a movement. You feel it moving. Isn't Sarah awesome? Come on.
You guys, this will only take about 10 minutes or so. I'm just kidding. No, yes, I do need someone to hold the signs. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break off into our groups that are represented by the table there. That's what this next little part is. And so before we get going on that, I just want to say thank you to every single person that helped this weekend. It was such a huge group effort, and everybody was all in. Incredible. Because you made it look good, and it was fun. That's tricky business. Okay, a quick little note. Jen said I could say this, so don't panic, Carol. But My City Care is having an open house today here in Lethbridge. So if you want to go ahead and check out our newest facility, I think it'd be really cool. They got it all ready for you guys. And the address, just in case you don't have it on Google, 120 F Mayor McGrath Drive North. So they are prepared to have people coming through. It'd be cool to see what they've set up and maybe get good ideas for other locations. All right, last thing before I let you go and meet your teams, just another quick little call out for some help with some cleanup stuff. If you are able to stick around and help with cleanup, we sure could use that, especially with the tents outside for the kids area. And then if you want to go check out My City Care and come back, that's always an option too, to help with the cleanup. It's not super crazy, but all the help is good. so we'd really appreciate that. And okay, so now we have our groups. I do need to get my phone out because I have, Jill, did you want to come? I feel like you keep jumping up. Yeah, I would love it if you would come help me. Okay, so we have different teams are going to meet in different rooms. And our first team is Parallel Connect. So let's get the leader for Parallel Connect up here. No, don't do that yet, because then I can't be with you. Just kidding, not that one. Let's not do that one. Let's instead do Parallel Programming. And that is going to be with Pastor Kelly in the sanctuary. So we'll just plunk that guy right there for now. All right. You can cheer for your team also. We're still partying. Next is the kids. The kids is part of programming, but they're going to meet in their own section as well. So the kids are meeting in room 6, and that's the big room just outside the doors here.
Isn't that logo cool? Huh? That logo is so cool. The little eye is so cute. It's like, man, anyway.
Speaking of
So
kids,
cool.
Don't forget yours once your meeting is done. That's going to be Keenan and Lisa? Jeremy? They're not going to be in room 6. They're going to be the patio outside with the tables and benches with the pretty flowers. How great was that outside eating area? Perfect. Okay. Next we have Parallel Youth. All right. Youth is going to be meeting in room 5. Yeah, just follow Tim.
And you don't have to be a youth to wear that cool swag. Just say it's pretty cool.
Oh, I love the tie-dye. Okay, now sure, let's do My City Care. And they're going to meet in the Creative Suite, which is just down that hallway. And it's, oh, all right, Jen's right there. And you're doing way better than me. Parallel Care. Heyo, that's you.
Pastor Ralph and Cydia.
All right, they're going to meet in the Hospitality Suite. That's our little volunteers room that's just outside the doors here. And then we have Parallel Leaders with Heidi. Hey guys, can we give it up to Blackwood Coffee for that brunch?
Yeah.
Their very first catering job.
Hold on. Brian,
Heidi.
can I say something? Can I make an announcement? We're good to go? I know you're in on this one. We are partnering as a church. Parallel Church is going to be partnering with Blackwood Coffee, and we're replacing Starbucks and all the rest of it with Blackwood Coffee. Over the next number of months, we're going to have Blackwoods in each one of our locations. How cool is that? Anyway.
Yeah. And because of this very reason, no, just because it worked out, they're going to be meeting in the coffee shop for Parallel Leaders with Heidi. And last but certainly not least, with Jillian here, we've got Parallel Connect, and they are going to be meeting, let me find it, in the chapel. So down the end of that hall on the right-hand side.
Okay, and if you're not sure, like what team am I part of, all the rest of it, whatever in this one resonated as we go around this and going, yeah, whichever one resonated with you the most, head there. This is part of it. If you're not signed up with anything, just get ready, because we need all hands on deck, because this is a movement that's moving.
Oh, and
Awesome.
after this is done, you guys are free to go. There's not going to be another gathering meeting. So once your team breaks up, you're good to grab your kids and head out. If you are from another site and you're looking for your stuff, find me or Jen. Oh, 2 seconds.